Okay,
or maybe indeed
so
is.
that review is more would be more commonly used when you're talking about reflection, like looking at yourself.
Mhm.
Whereas here, if it's used as an assessment tool, it's it's used by someone else to evaluate your ability. So review makes more sense if we're talking about self-assessment rather than assessment in general.
So Adam,
Really review your ability to fulfill your purpose. That is where we're talking about looking at yourself.
Mhm.
Um, although in this case, in the La Trobe University one, your course coordinator will review your ability to progress. So that is closer to what we're talking about, but it implies looking again. To review is to look again. So it's like looking at someone's transcript or looking at someone's existing results
Mhm.
to think about what they could improve or whether they're ready to progress. It's a little bit different to evaluating their abilities to begin with. It could be, yeah. Yeah. So review and evaluate, they kind of come together. They kind of overlap, but one is just a bit better when talking about assessment, and the other is a bit better when talking about like self-assessment. Or even like this is a workplace-based subject. The idea that you do all of these things and that there's some kind of primary assessment, which is actually about whether you've done them well, but then that all of your results are reviewed by your coordinator to decide if you've actually done a good job in your practicum. So it's a little bit different to the essay, which is more like we might think about that as like a primary assessment tool. Do you know what you're talking about? Whereas a review would be like a secondary assessment tool. Have you met all the criteria across numerous different things that you've had to do, um, like a whole program? Looking back over something you've already completed, um, to decide. So in that context, it's still got that sense of looking again rather than looking for the first time. Um, so you could imagine that you could complete lots of essays over your program, and at the end, someone might review your ability to move on to higher study.
as Adam said here, evaluate is review your abilities usually for self-assessments. Okay, there is a subtle difference.
To go to explore in greater depth is so you think about it longer
Mhm.
and in more detail.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I got it.
Only value that essays have for learning is that is that it if you really think about your topic enough to write the essay, you kind of have to think about it in more depth. I don't think it has much value otherwise.
But
Let's imagine it's kind of a metaphor. Let's imagine that you read your textbook about a topic and there's three paragraphs there and it mentions two examples and you think, okay, I understand that topic now. But then someone says, write a research essay about that, answer the question whether this approach or this approach is the right one for thinking about that topic. So you look at your textbook and there's not really an answer there. All they have is a couple of examples. So you go out and you figure out first what is the question about. Oh, I read another article and in that one they use this approach. And then I read this article and they use a different approach. It turns out that there's a debate, there's disagreement. I have to go in greater depth into the topic to learn more about it really, to make an informed decision about who I agree with
mhm.
and why. So it's kind of a metaphor. This idea of going deeper on a topic is really about learning a lot more about it.
Yeah, I got it. Perfect.